Another day at work, and you are in another meeting in the same room with the same team and the same dashboard. Same faces, same chairs, same slides, same numbers, just updated. And before anyone says a word, the room is already doing something. It's scanning you, not in a disrespectful way, in a survival way. Because the team knows something leaders forget. Your tone is a forecast. If you walk in tight, rushed, irritated, people feel it before they understand it. If you walk in calm, grounded, clear, people breathe again. And that's why there are two versions of the exact same meeting. Version 1, pressure becomes panic. In the first version, the leader walks in carrying stress like a loud backpack. The questions come out fast, sharp, and loaded. Why is this still happening? Who owns this? How did we miss this? Are we even in control? No one lies on purpose, but everyone edits. They speak in defensible metrics instead of messy reality. They soften language. They round corners. They delay the truth until it's safe enough to say, if it ever becomes safe. Because when pressure shows up as panic, the room learns one rule: truth is risky. Version 2, pressure becomes structure. In the second version, the leader walks in calm. Not casual, not soft, calm. Same urgency, same stakes, different energy. The leader says, here's what we know, here's what we don't know yet, and here's what we're going to do next. And the room changes. People speak earlier. Risks surface faster. The dashboard becomes a tool again, not a mask. That's what today is about, because pressure is unavoidable, panic is optional, and your tone becomes the organization's operating system. Quick note before we begin. The views shared on Compass to Practice are my personal views and do not reflect those of my employer or any current or former company. I do not share confidential, proprietary, customer-specific, or employer-specific information on this podcast. Welcome to Compass to Practice, where leaders turn intention into behavior. I'm your host, Antonio Irizarry, and today's episode is Pressure Without Panic: How to Lead Hard Conversations Without Fear-Based Accountability. By the end of this episode, you'll have 1. A simple way to recognize when you are becoming a pressure amplifier. 2. A practical protocol for calm authority in meetings. 3. A structure for hard conversations that surfaces truth without creating theater. 4. A weekly practice that makes your team escalate earlier, even under stress. Pressure is real. You can't remove it. Pressure is demand, deadlines, customer expectations, defects, cost, safety, real stakes. Panic is what happens when the pressure gets converted into fear in the room. Pressure says, we need clarity. Panic says, we need a culprit. Pressure says, tell me what changed. Panic says, why did you let this happen? Pressure says, what's the smallest next action? Panic says, everyone talk now. When panic enters a system, it doesn't just distort decisions, it distorts data. Because when people feel exposed, they start managing impressions. And the most dangerous thing that can happen under pressure is not a miss. It's a culture that becomes allergic to truth. Let's make this real. A team is in a weekly review. The slide is green. On-time delivery is green. Quality is green. Backlog is manageable. But the floor is red. You know what red looks like on the floor. One machine is being babysat by the best operator. The same defect is being caught in rework. A late supplier is being compensated with overtime. A supervisor has a spreadsheet of workarounds that never makes it into the deck. Everything is on track because people are carrying the truth quietly. So the leader asks the question every leader asks, anything I should know? And there's a pause. Not because people don't know, because the room is doing math. What will it cost me if I say it? What will it cost my boss if I say it? What will it cost the team if I say it? Then someone says something safe. Nothing major. We're working a few things. That's not deception. That's adaptation. And here's the part leaders miss. If your team can't say the truth in the meeting isn't a management system. It's a performance stage. And pressure is what turns stages into theaters. So the question becomes, how do you keep urgency high without turning the room into fear? Here's what panic breaks in the leadership compass: humility. Panic replaces "what am I missing?" with "who messed up?" Clarity. Panic turns priorities into noise and urgency into confusion. Courage. Panic punishes early truth and rewards late certainty. Empathy. Panic makes leaders stop hearing the human cost underneath the numbers. Calm authority does the opposite. It makes truth cheaper. It makes signal travel faster. It makes action smaller and more consistent. It makes performance repeatable. So here's the core idea. Your job is not to remove pressure. Your job is to stop pressure from becoming fear. One of the most famous examples of leading under pressure without panic is Apollo 13. When things went wrong, the key wasn't hero speeches. The key was structure. Mission Control didn't solve the problem by being louder. They solved it by being clearer. They separated facts from assumptions, constraints from preferences, immediate containment from long-term resolution. They ran disciplined communication. They used checklists. They used roles. They used time-boxed decision loops. And most importantly, they maintained a tone that said, "We're in reality. We're not in blame." That's why those teams could take extreme uncertainty and turn it into solvable steps. This is the lesson for leaders. When pressure rises, the organization doesn't need more emotion. It needs a stronger operating system. Aviation teaches another lesson. When stakes rise, you protect signal. The sterile cockpit idea is simple. In critical phases of flight, you reduce non-essential conversation. Not to reduce communication, but to increase quality of communication. Then CRM, crew resource management, teaches something that matters in leadership rooms. If truth is allowed but not safe, it won't show up. If truth is safe but not required, it won't show up. You need both. Safe to speak, required to listen. That's the real pressure skill for leaders. Under stress, your job is to lower noise and raise signal, because panic is mostly noise. If you want a case study that looks like leadership in real time, look at the incident command system used in emergencies. ICS doesn't pretend the crisis isn't real. It doesn't positive think the fire away. It creates structure fast. Who is leading the response? Who is gathering facts? Who is making decisions? Who owns containment? What is the next update time? That structure prevents the most common failure under stress. Everyone talking, nobody owning, no next step. Panic says, everyone react. Calm authority says, here's the structure, now we move. Here's the leadership translation. When something goes red, don't start with, who owns this? Start with, what changed? What's the risk if we wait? What's the next action and by when? What help do you need? That's how you turn stress into execution. Let me slow down here because this is one of the reasons I wrote Irizarry Rising as a story. I didn't write it as a manual first, because manuals are easy to agree with and easy to ignore. Stories do something different. A framework can be debated, a checklist can be filed away, but a scene, where a leader feels the room go quiet, stays with you. And in Irizarry Rising, a big part of the transformation isn't the tools, it's the cost of telling the truth. The company looks measurable, busy, disciplined, but the culture has learned a pattern. If you escalate too early, you get judged. If you escalate without proof, you get dismissed. If you escalate and it embarrasses someone, you pay for it later. So people adapt. They carry risk quietly. They protect leaders from discomfort. They keep the dashboard green with heroics. That's why the truth arrives late, often through the customer. And that's the part a story captures that dashboards don't. The pauses, the facial expressions, the tension behind confident slides, the moment someone almost escalates and decides not to. Then the turning point in the story isn't a new metric, it's consequence redesign. The leader learns to do two things consistently. 1, make escalation clear so people don't guess when to raise their hand. And 2, make escalation safe so the first truth teller is protected, not punished. That is calm authority, not softness, not lower standards. It's the discipline of staying in reality without turning reality into fear. And that's the biggest leadership truth of pressure. If you want better metrics, you don't just improve measurement, you improve the environment in which truth is spoken. Here's the tool. Write this down. Run it every time the room starts heating up. Step 1. Name reality. 30 seconds. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know yet. Here's what changed. Step 2. Protect signal. 2 minutes. Ask these 3 questions in order. 1. What's the risk if we wait? 2. What do you need right now? 3. What are we carrying quietly to keep this green? Step 3. Make it operational. Here's the next action. Here's the owner. Here's the next check-in time. That's calm authority. It keeps urgency high without turning the meeting into theater. Here's the weekly challenge. In your next staff meeting, ask one question. What are we calling green that feels red on the floor? Then run the pressure protocol and commit to one visible 7-day action. And when someone speaks honestly, protect them, because that moment becomes your culture. Until next time, turn intention into behavior. Follow me on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want more information, visit my website, www.compasstopractice.com.